pass to Johnson. Johnson still going. Dummies again. Johnson into the wide Brown. Brown goes in to score.
Oh, he's serving it down the touchline. Oh, this is unbelievable. They're gonna win it. Oh, what scenes here, what scenes. LeBron James, a shot at history. LeBron stands alone. The NBA's all-time scoring record now belongs to LeBron James.
You beauty, another week and another episode of STS off the back of the Melbourne Cup this weekend. Well done to you if you had that pony that won. Opened the day at 151 to 1 odds, got crunched into about 71 or 81 to 1. Still no luck for me too. By the time the race jumped, ended up having bets on about half the bloody field, but it didn't lead to any chocolates. Disappointing scenes. I saw one punter in Aussie at $100 on the first four, won 3.2 million. That is crazy shit. I've been seeing mystery trifectas popping up where people had $3 on a mystery try that returned about $26,000, which is incredibly frustrating because I've never had a win like that, regardless of how much study I've put into it. So maybe next year that's the method, $50 odd just on mystery trifectas, because literally anything can win. It's always a crazy outsider, but I hope you had a great Melbourne Cup day, and if you did back home the winner, then well done to you. A lucrative payday right there. Shout out, as always, to the TAB. Of course, I would have said it was a good day for them yesterday because none of the big favourites won, so no doubt they did well out of that event. If you are having a flutter this weekend, though, make sure it is through the TAB. And great news for Surly listeners. That's right. If you can pick up what I'm putting down, you know what's coming. We have a bonus cash code for this weekend's action. Due to hot demand, people have been flooding the DMs, even commenting on the Spotify episodes and emailing me saying, Surly, we want the codes back. So I hit up the powers that be and they have delivered. So this week, it's a little bit different. Ears on, listen in. The code is trytime. And what it is you have to place a first try scorer bet on the Kiwis versus PNG game. If your try scorer doesn't come in, you'll get your money back up to $20 as bonus cash. So that could be a little bit confusing. I'll explain it for you now with an example. You jump on the Kiwis versus PNG game, first try scorer bet. You chuck in the code first though, try time. Then you place your bet. Say you go Jermaine Isaac, or he doesn't score first, someone else does. You'll get your money back up to $20 as bonus cash. This is capped to the first 200 people. So get around it, claim it early. Again, the code is trytime. Use it before you jump on the first try scorer option in the Kiwis versus PNG promotion relegation game in the Pacific Championship. So great to have that code back. Shout out to them. As always, gamble responsibly. R18, only bet what you can afford, and please gamble within your means. But thanks to the TAB. Also thanks to Better Beer, official beer of the pod, official beer of the Surly Talk Sports Golf Day 2, which is rolling around next weekend. Can't wait for that. So much sporting chat to rip through this week though. Packed show as always, plus your Q&A and your punting. So without further ado, let's get into it. How bloody good. Well, that fateful day has finally come. The last week that Rugby League will be on our television screens until, of course, WA's in Vegas. There'll be some preseason footy before that, but it's the last meaningful weekend of God's game before the off-season really kicks into gear. Of course, November 1, that ticked over last week, so plenty of chat around contracts to get through as well. So I'll run you through those right now. And the biggest story for me has to be this Terrell May issue, and this one to me is really bizarre. He's a quality footballer, an unreal talent. He's young. He recently signed an extension with the Roosters as well, and it appears that this just came out of nowhere. Straight away, I jumped to the conclusion that maybe, much like his brothers, he'd been a bit of a bad boy, been playing up off-field, but then guys like Angus Crichton and that come out straight away and say he's not like that, doesn't drink, really good roost, hasn't done anything wrong, so don't jump to assumptions, which is wrong of me and the majority of league fans, but it's only human that you think that way. So this just makes no sense to me. And straight away, your mind has to shift that the Roosters are freeing up salary cap. Who else is on the market that they could be interested in? One, Ben Hunt. So it'll be interesting to see if they make a play for him. It'll be also interesting to see where May ends up. Straight away, the usuals, Tigers and Dragons. Anytime someone's off contract or free to negotiate, those two loser clubs come straight in to top the chats. I've heard the Bulldogs are also pretty keen. Gussie Gould, of course, has a relationship with May. I think they tried to get him before he extended as well, or they were sniffing around anyway, and they could do with another big body through the middle, so shit would he be good there. Of course, you'd love to see him come to the Warriors, but I don't think that's an option at all. So Terrell May, such a quality footballer with a massive future ahead. It would be a huge addition to basically any NRL team in the comp. Going to be really interesting to see where he lands and if the truth comes out around this Roosters thing, if something has gone on, or if they're just clearing salary cap to make a play for Hunt, who of course has been rumoured with the Dogs, rumoured with interest at the Roosters like I just said on, but for me, it's got to be the Finns for Ben Hunt. He's already said he wants to go back to Queensland, be closer to family. I think he'd be a great partner for Isaiah Katoa. I'd like to see Benny Hunt playing the 6 role there. It does mean Nikorima shifts to 14, but he can be really good there. And then all of a sudden, you got a spine of the Hammer, Ben Hunt, Katoa, and Jeremy Marshall-King. That's got to be right up there with one of the most deadly and potent in the comp. Plus, then you get Ben Hunt in that mentor role, mentoring Isaiah Katoa. I reckon that'll be a massive win for the Finns. They got money in the cap too, so surely they're going in on old Hunty. Dogs, wouldn't mind seeing him there, but they're rumoured with everyone, so it's whether they can make it all fit. And then Roosters, that has to be a genuine option. It's whether Hunt prioritises going to Queensland over Sydney. Of course, Sammy Walker out for the majority of the year next year. They did sign Chad Townsend, but he is Chad Townsend, so no doubt they're looking to strengthen their stocks there. Could they pull it off, the boys from Bondi? Anytime Nick Politis is in the picture, then nothing would surprise me around them. A massive wad of cash on the side, allegedly. And I could certainly see him lacing up for the boys from Bondi. Clint Gutherson looks like he's off to the Dragons. Of course, granted permission to negotiate and leave immediately by the Eels. Dragons straight away put their hand up, said they're keen, so I think it's only a matter of time before that one gets done. For the Broncos, Reece Walsh extends, so does Xavier Willens. Two big signatures for them. Willison was hopeful that he may be lured back to New Zealand, not to be. I reckon he's got a massive future on him. And then Reece Walsh, I don't think this was ever up for debate. They were always going to lock him in on a big deal. I think the main thing was around how long for. To me, this also suggests Ezra Mam, he's going nowhere. Him and Walshy, thick as thieves, best mates, and I don't think he would extend through to the end of 2029 if they were going to fuck off Ezra. I personally think they're just trying to sweep that issue under the rug. Give it time. Hopefully the media around it dies down. They'll punish him, cheeky suspension and a fine, and then he'll be back playing for them next year for sure. This Walsh extension also suggests he sat down with Madge Maguire, and Madge likes the cut of his jib as well, so keen to see how those two work as a combo at the Bronx. The Fox, sacked. He's back on the tools, wheelbarrowing concrete. What an absolute legend that is. I think it had been a week past and he just got itchy feet, had to get out into the workforce, doing a labouring gig in his off-season. That is elite scenes. Looks like Parramatta are going in for him, and I think they could do with him. That would then allow Zach Lomax to live his lifelong dream and move back to the centres as well. Interesting in Fox's sign-off. He thanked the Bulldogs, the club and the fans. Of course, he joined them at a tough time. Now they're right back up on top, and he played a big part in that. His energy, the change in culture, a lot of that goes down to the credit of the Fox. At the same time, he didn't exactly admit guilt, did he? He said he knows the truth and that will come out in due course, so I'm really interested. Clearly still doesn't think he took cocaine knowingly, so I'll be keen to find out the actual details around that, but I think he'd still be a handy get for Para on his day. Still one of the most deadly finishers in the competition. Sammy Walker extended at the Roosters until the end of 2027, despite him missing most of next year, if not all of it, with that ACL injury, so that's a feel-good story there. Back on the Broncos, Katoni Staggs, Selwyn Cobbo, both of them free to negotiate, and you have to think they can't afford to keep both of them, although it is an interesting situation. The rumour is Selwyn's been shopped to a lot of NRL clubs looking to push up his value so the Bronx will pay big money for him, and apparently there's not much of a market for the big fella. He wants fullback coin, and he's just not getting getting it. So there is a world where they lock away Katoni on a bigger deal because that's their main priority. And then they get Selwyn for a bit cheaper than most people expect. So that's something to watch there too. And then, of course, the Leo Thompson situation, which is probably number one for me. Still haven't heard the Warriors in the rumour mill, but it does look like he is going to leave the Knights. They're saying Raiders, Dogs, still your front two. So watch this space. I reckon Leo can demand a shit ton of coin because it's big boy season at the moment, and I reckon these props are going to get paid over the next couple of years. He has to be right up there in that tier one of big boppers as well. And then the big signing, of course, the one that Warriors fans were most interested in last week, dropped I think the day after we recorded last week's potty, so didn't quite get to touch on it, and that is the signing of Tanner Boyd from the Gold Coast Titans, signed until the end of 2026. And I actually really like this signing. I think it's a good depth play for us in the halves. He's got a strong kicking game. He's a good game manager. Versatile too. Of course, plays the majority of his minutes at 7, but he can cover 9 and play that 14 role as well. We have about 6 guys that can play that role really well. But hey, depth never hurt. It's a fucking long season. You pick up injuries along the way. So to have a player like Tanner just slot straight in, I reckon that's a win-win for us. Of course, he carved us up this year at Mount Smart on Anzac Day. I believe we would have got him reasonably cheap. I don't think we emptied the checkbook for him. Not quite sure on the value of the contract, but I don't think he would have been demanding massive coin. And if that is true, then I think this deal was a real steal. With the half stocks of Lukey, Met, Tamaire Martin, CHT, and Tanner Boyd in your top 30, and then 2 young lads setting the tone for the future in Luke Hanson and Jet Cleary, I reckon that's shaping up pretty nicely. I don't expect Tanner to be in the 17 in round 1 personally, but he also easily could be. He also looks like Andrew Webster's son, so there's real potential there that Tanner and Webby could be our Nathan and Ivan father-son combo to lead us to the promised land in the future. The resemblance between the two is almost uncanny. And shout out to Ivan too. He was in the crowd in attendance for that Kiwis versus Tonga game back at his home at Mount Smart. Surely I'd love for him to become our head of football in a couple of years' time. Maybe when he's finished winning Panthers rings, he can come over here, have Jet and Nathan in the halves, Ivan as your head of football, Webby as your head coach. That would literally be bloody modern day Shakespeare rugby league poetry. But overall, back to Tanner, I think this is a good signing. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he goes here, and I think for not a lot of coin, he's a handy pickup. NRL experience, of course, played Aussie schoolboys. I think he played Queensland Origin juniors as well, so he's got some rugby league pedigree. He hasn't been getting the opportunities consistently at the Titans that he has over the last couple of years. I reckon a lot of fans on social media may retract their comments that they made pretty quickly on this one, because I do think he's going to be a handy footballer and a great person to slot in to the halves if we have injuries to guys like Lukey, Met or Tamaire, who unfortunately over the last couple of seasons have had their fair share of niggles. Final piece of NRL news before we get into the Pacific Championships, and I thought this one was really interesting, and I want to see it happen too. RLPA boss Clint Newton, he's come out and said he wants the NRL to shorten the season length to 22 rounds, and I agree with this. I think it's way too long. Currently, when you get to the end of the year, this international window, you just look at the Kiwis team, you can see how many people are out at the moment. The bodies are fucked, the rigs are rusty, everyone's got bumps and bruises. They're pulling out left, right and centre in order to prioritise their health, get off-season surgery so that they can come back next year and play for their NRL clubs. I think the fact that you've got the final on this week of the Pacific Championships when teams are already back in NRL preseason just goes to show at the moment there's way too much footy on. And as a fan, selfish, of course, you want to be watching it as much as you can, but if that's to the detriment of the quality we get dished up, then look, I'm all for scaling it back. I think the biggest opposition to this, of course, would be the TV deal. Guys like Fox, Channel 9, Sky Sport, they want as many games on as they can so they can broadcast them and get the revenue. At the same time, though, the NRL has recently said their ultimate goal is to get the competition to a state of 20 teams, 20 rounds, and then finals from there. So the NRL has the agenda to lower the amount of weeks as well. I reckon, although we lessen the amount of weeks, we'll get a better quality product, and then it also opens up that window too, where you can start experimenting with some international games during the Origin window too. I'm all for this personally. I feel bloody sorry for the players. 27 rounds and you get into your finals footy, then you get into international code. Pre-season starts fucking November 1 for the majority of players as well. It's so much of a toll on your body. We ask these guys to get through so much workload. Yes, they get handsomely paid, but it's not bloody easy as well. So I think shorten the season for sure, whether that's 20 or 22 rounds. And I think overall it'll be a better quality product as well. But onto the Pacific Championships, of course, last week's results, there were some doozies there. PNG got the W over a tough Cook Island side, 42 points to 20. I actually watched this one on Sunday night, was nervous as hell. I'm in a syndicate called the Northcote Rooters. Shout out to them. And we was riding home the final leg of a lucrative multi, which was my leg as well. PNG minus 18.5 on the line. And it looked like they were going to win by 18. I thought I was going to cook us by half a point. A tragic tale in the world of punting. But luckily, PNG scored right on full time to win this one by 22 points. I thought the Cook Islands were no shot, but shit did they push them. They were massively improved from their last hit out. Really made a game of that one. And shout out to Nene McDonald. Watch me whip. Watch me Nene. Fuck, has he become a weapon? I think he's playing over in the Super League at the moment. Made their team of the year, scored a double meaty last week. He's been bloody good. Looks like he's in NRL form, although I do think he is about 31 years old, so I don't think he's a chance to make a return. But the Kiwis are going to have to look out for him this weekend. We had the Kiwi Ferns beating PNG over there, 36 points to 0. A bit less of a score than what was expected, but they still got the result to book themselves a spot in the final this weekend. England bet Samoa to sweep that series, although we all know Samoa not quite full strength, missing several key players. Shout out to Critter for getting married in international season. Again, shorten the season, and he can get that done when it doesn't clash with Samoa. Herbie Farnworth, though, he looked phenomenal yet again. I think he bagged a double, just running amok all game long. England, they look to be the real deal. There's chat. Aussie will play them next year. They're going to leave the Pacific Championship, so that'll be Aussie versus England, a bit of an Ashes series. That'll be a bloody good watch, because England over there on home soil proving pretty hard to beat, and I reckon come next World Cup, we're going to have 4 or 5 genuine contenders. She's shaping up to be the best one we've ever had. And then, of course, the big result, Kiwis going down 25 points to 24 to Tonga, and what has to be one of the best games of international rugby league I have ever seen. It was a crazy atmosphere at Mount Smart, was lucky enough to head out there. And in a weird way, as much as this one hurt, I actually found myself pretty happy that Tonga won. I've never been happier to lose, to be honest. It was a sea of red. The hymns were being blasted out. There's such a happy supporter base. Any big run, any big shot, the Tongan crowd just erupted. And in saying that as well, they really got behind the Kiwis as well. The New Zealand national anthem, everyone was singing it. Got to say, those anthems were beautiful as well. Whatever choir it was, blasting those out. A-plus job from them. They really set the tone. The 2 war dancers, that was off its head. Adam Fanor-Blake going hard up the front, followed up by James Fisher-Harris, rolling his eyes back into his head during the haka. That was terrifying shit. So the stage was set from the start, but the role that the crowd played, the Tongan crowd in this one, was just massive, and it was one of the most enjoyable 80 minutes of an atmosphere that I've been involved in. So shout out to the Tongan fans. The Red Sea showed up in a massive way, and I have no doubt they played a huge part in their team getting the result. Once the whistle blew, shit, it was one-way traffic for Tonga. One of the most dominant displays from a forward pack I've ever seen up against the Kiwis. They took us on at our own game. Of course, our strength in this side at the moment is through the middle. Fisher-Harris, Joseph Tapane, Leo Thompson, White, big bodies, hyper-aggressive, love to truck nut, and for the majority of teams, they're just way too overwhelming, but not for this Tongan pack. AFB and Taumalolo in particular, both elite. And Jason Taumalolo, every time he throws on the Tonga jersey, it's like he turns into Superman, goes to another level. Must be frustrating for Cowboys fans. 54 minutes he played in this one, ran for 198 metres off 20 carries, 100 PCMs, which is off its head, 18 tackles, 0 miss. This year for the Cowboys, he averaged 113 metres off 8.8 carries, so almost 12 carries less per game. Clearly that Tonga jersey means a shit ton to him, as it should. He was really the first to kickstart this movement and start players going back to play for their island heritage, so it's always been the number one priority for him. But man, Toddy Payton will be doing everything he can to try and unlock this output consistently for the Cows. He should almost let him wear a Tonga jersey underneath his Cowboys one, because this bloke, when he's at his best, he's a rugby league wrecking ball. Shout out to Miley Cyrus. He was just skittling this Kiwis pack, and both him and AFB have that rare ability where you could be getting dominated in a set, under pressure, momentum all against you, one or two big carries from those two, and they can literally change the whole momentum of the game off the back of that alone, which is fucking hard to find, to be fair. 24 points to 6. Tonga shot out to that lead, went into oranges, looking bloody comfortable off the back of tries to Sione Katoa. AFB, he dotted underneath the sticks, which is a sight I'm really going to miss. The Mount Smart faithful. That's just become a trademark of the Warriors over the last couple of years. Hit that celebration too, the old shoulder shrug, coldest one in the game. Fuck, is he a rugby league handful. Then Sonny Luke scored probably one of the softest tries I've seen in a while. Luckily though for Kiwis fans, Isaiah Papali'i crossed in the 36th minute to give us a little bit of confidence, momentum and hope. And that was actually the try which kicked us into gear too, because I thought second half we looked so much better. 3 tries in 27 minutes, one to Keanu Keeney, one to Wellington Phoenix Crosland, and then Joseph Tapane with arguably one of the tries of the year. The bloke can do it all, and for me there's no better sight than a big-bodied prop with a mullet towing the ball ahead for a meaty. That was an elite display of skill level right there. Then one-on-one with the fullback, looked so comfortable and just toesing him up, beating him to level the scores. But then cometh the hour, cometh the man, the young fella, Katoa, the Tonga 7 that they've been waiting for a long time. He steps up and bangs over the game-winning field goal, and that was all she wrote. And personally, I was stoked for Katoa. He had a pretty tough night against the Aussies a few weeks back, which I really focused on last week as our key to victory for the Kiwis. I thought we were going to go out there, target him, rattle him, and that would go a long way to us getting the dub. He was really good in this game, so calm and so composed. And the best part for me as well, he had a few opportunities throughout the year NRL season to kick field goals for the Dolphins, and he either didn't take them, turn them down, or he had shots and miss. It was bloody nice to see him bang this one over, send the South Stand into a frenzy. It's almost like a real coming of age moment for me. The Kiwis, we still had our chances after this. SJ had a shot charged down. Do have to say there was no way Ali Katoa was square at marker when he pressured SJ there into stepping off his right foot, then trying to bang one, and the old running field goal. A really hard skill to execute. I think Taumalolo in the end ended up getting his hands on it, but there was no way marker was square. Bunker, fucking a Warriors player at Mount Smart. Surprise, surprise. Then Jermaine Isako, he had a bit of a road crack from about 40 metres out on tackle one off the back of a set restart from that SJ kick charge down. I think there's still about 50 seconds left on the clock, so it probably wasn't the play that we needed. Would have been better to just truck nut there, get into our set structures and set Shawnee up for another crack. At the same time though, Isako was slotting them in the warm-up from all over the paddock, so he is a handy field goal taker. Just wasn't quite the play we needed with the game right on the line. Full credit to Tonga though. I think they were the better team in this game and they deserved to win. Shit did they celebrate too. It meant so much to them. Reserves steaming onto the field. There were players in tears. You gotta love that. It was scenes I'll never forget in the crowd as well. The dancing, the celebrations, fans crying, the hymns. Fucking they sing. It was so cool to see, and I was almost happy that we lost and that it was to Tonga, which feels bloody weird to say as a patriotic Kiwi. Your standouts for me for Tonga, of course, AFB, man of the match, a try, 224 run metres off 19 carries, 83 PCMs, a line break, 7 tackle breaks, 20 tackles, and just 1 miss. all in 55 minutes. That is some crazy shit right there. Best prop in the game at the moment, well and truly. Jason Taumalolo, mentioned him before. Bloke was a freak, and I've also mentioned Katoa, but I thought ice field goal, kicked 3 from 4 conversions, some of them from the sideline too. That first nudge he banged over was beautiful. He kicked for 417 metres in-game as well. Won the 1-on-1 kicking battle with SJ, so well done to him. For the Kiwis, I thought Keanu Kenny, outstanding again. Back-to-back massive performances. His 2 tests for our team have been elite. He had a try, ran for a game-high 240 metres, 59 PCMs, a line break assist, 7 tackle breaks, 10 tackles, and just 1 missed as well. So he was great defensively. And for me, the most impressive part, made a couple errors early, and I thought, fuck, the poor kid, he's in for a really tough day, but he seems to have that rare ability. He's one of those players that backs themselves and their ability. He can shake things off. He doesn't let it rattle him. You could tell he was disappointed, but he was still willing to roll the dice, got himself really involved, got back into his rhythm, and I thought he looked unreal in that second half in particular. This kid's a footballer, and I think he's going to wear the 1 jersey for New Zealand for a bloody long time, and we're incredibly lucky to have him as well. Isaiah Papali'i, loved his performance too. Scored a try, like I said, 134 run meters, 41 tackles for 3 missed. I think he was arguably our best forward in a really stacked pack, and the thought of him going to Penrith next year, I reckon that signing has been so underrated. Wind it back a couple years back, he was a Dally M second rower, struggled a little bit at the Tigers, but who doesn't? And now he's been picked up by Ivan's lads. I reckon he's going to spend some time in the middle for them, and I reckon he's going to be a heck of a player. Partner him up with Moses Leota. He's that fit body, still big enough to get away with it too. Will get through a shit ton of work rate, and I'm really excited to see him in that Penrith system. Often we see Penrith grab these fringies and turn them into gold. IPAP, he's not a fringy. He's an international player that has been at the highest levels of the game many times before. I'm bloody keen to see what we can do at Penrith. And then finally, I thought Wellington Phoenix Crosland was really good as well. I saw he got the Kiwis man of the match, scored a try, 44 tackles. He's all effort. Mentioned last week, we missed Jeremy Marshall-King and Brandon Smith's playmaking ability out of 9 just to help give us more attacking threats. But you can't question the amount of heart this bloke plays with, always leading up the D-line, and that try he scored was a nice little display of running support lines as well. So on to this weekend we go. Kiwi Ferns vs Jillaroos in the final, 3:50 p.m. Then we get dished up the final, which is, of course, Aussie vs Tonga. And then we get the big game, the promotion relegation between the Kiwis and PNG. A lot of people don't realise that this game was actually happening and just how important this one is, what's at stake. I mentioned before England and Aussie potentially playing each other next year. So Aussie will be out of the Pacific Championship. I believe what's going to happen, Samoa comes straight back in. Tonga will be there, guaranteed. They could even be defending champs. And then it's either New Zealand or PNG that will be there. Fuck, I'm backing us to win it easily. But imagine if we don't. At the same time, if we do, Samoa, Tonga, New Zealand in a series, all games in New Zealand, hopefully. That right there will be elite watching, and Tonga versus Samoa alone, the fan bases are going to be into that one. But we'll start with the first game. Of course, Kiwi Ferns taking on the Jillaroos. The Jillaroos, just one change to the squad that beat us down in Christchurch. Keely Davis, she's back, joins on the bench, pushes Jess Surgis out to 18th player, which was really interesting because I thought Jess carved us up late in that game in Christchurch when we fatigued towards the end there. So I'm quite happy with that change. Then for the Kiwi Ferns, Uppy Nichols, she slots straight back into fullback, was rested last week against the Orchids, and Anessa Biddle, she's back in the second row as well. Great to have Uppy back. She's a weapon. Very uppy about that inclusion for sure. That was a piss poor joke, but she is a quality footballer, and I love our chances in this one. Yes, 14-0, not a huge scoreline down in Christchurch, but I thought we were really in that game for large patches. Our attack looked really clunky. We turned over so much ball and made errors off the back of good ball and good field position too, but that was our first hit out. We've now had last weekend where we didn't quite look as good as I'd hoped, but still, it's another week to establish combinations. We're going as heavy underdogs here. They literally have nothing to lose, so hopefully the Kiwi Ferns can go the big lift. Aussie versus Tonga, Kangaroos without Cam Murray. He's out with that wrist injury, 3 to 4 months. He could miss a bit of the start of next year for the Bunnies too. He's massive for them. Whenever he pulls on that green and gold jersey, he goes to the next level. Instead, Hudson Young comes in as the only change in the starting side. And then Lindsay Smith, he joins the bench for his test debut. Benny Hunt, still at 18th man. Saw a crazy stat on Random Stats Guy as well. This is the first ever time two players called Lindsay have been named in the same team. It's never happened in NRL or international football in the history of the game. That is out the gate, and shout out to Rando for that one there. So that's the only changes really for Aussie. A pretty settled 17. For Tonga, even better, they've rolled out the exact same 17. The only potential change there that I could see happening, Keon Kolamatangi, he remains on standby with his partner as they wait for the birth of his child, but he's been named in jersey 19 this week, so there's a chance that he could come in maybe for Asuia Wong. Otherwise, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's again resisted temptation to chuck Tolu Kola in there. For me, it's all about combinations, and changing the team that historically beat us last week just wouldn't feel right. They've got momentum and confidence off the back of it, so it's straight 6 more, and they go again. I'm really looking forward to this game. Tonga will be licking their lips through the middle. Their 4-pack will be so confident after what they did to us last weekend. You could say they're up against a lesser task this weekend, so I reckon they will be licking their lips at the thought of dominating the Kangaroos through the middle, and if they can do that and just keep trucking nut all game, winning that battle there, if Katoa can nail his kicking game, not dish up 7 tackle sets like he did the first time around, they're well and truly in with a sniff of not only keeping this game close, but potentially pulling off the upset. And we'll talk about it more in the punting section shortly, but I can't believe the bookies are dishing up an 18.5 point line for this one. I think Tonga have been disrespected. Of course, Aussie bet them 18-0 in game 1, but this Tongan side will be much better then. And I'm still not convinced. I say it here every week for the last 3 weeks that Aussie are as good as they should be on paper. Would love to see Tonga get the job done here. No doubt the Red Sea will be out, the Sydney version, in massive numbers too. If they can get a similar level of support as they did last week, that'll go a massive way to keeping this one close too. I'm well and truly on the Tonga bandwagon this weekend. Surely the majority of you are as well. I'd love to see them knock them off. Imagine how big that would be for Tongan Rugby League and International Rugby League in general if they could beat the Kiwis and Aussie in back-to-back weeks. That would be elite shit. And then the main event, Kiwis versus PNG. Like I said before, relegation game. The Fish, he didn't even realise this game was going down last week in his post-game interview. They mentioned it to him and he looked pretty surprised by it all. 8:20 p.m. kickoff. Not sure why it's the last game played, but that is what it is. Stacey Jones rolled out the same 17, just the one tweak though. Nafahu White, he's named to start. Leo Thompson on the interchange bench, but that's how it was listed last week as well, I think. Late switch and Leo got the nod. Interested to see if they do the same there again. Aaron Clark once again 18th man, with Cody still in the 14 and Chan still in the halves. Personally for this one, I wouldn't have minded seeing a few changes, maybe a Casey McLean into the centres, give one of the young bucks a crack, because I do think we should be way too strong. At the same time though, similar to those methods before, consistency, combinations, this game means a shit ton. I can see why Stacey has resisted the urge to roll the dice with a couple people. For the Kummels, Reece Martin, he is back. No relation to Ricky Martin. He's in, their skipper. Missed last week for personal reasons, and he'll be a huge inclusion for them. I think he 100% should be playing in the NRL. He's a bloody quality second rower, a good goal kicker too, and we have to keep an eye on him. Much like Nene McDonald that I mentioned before. PNG, they'll be up for this. It'll mean a shit ton of them a chance to get promoted up into the top tier of the comp. They love their league. Physical pack, they'll hit hard. Decent halves combo there. They do have some attacking threats. Still though, we should have way too many weapons in the duffel. And if we don't beat them by 20 plus points, then I'd be incredibly surprised. So fingers crossed that's how it all plays out. Relegation for us would be an absolute disaster. Get up the Kiwis. Still well and truly behind the lads, so make sure you are as well. They need our support. I'll be watching this one, that's for sure, Saturday night. The key is well and truly still fill in the wee, and hopefully Stacey and the lads can go over there, 13 plus them, and then it's time to rest and repair, get ready for a rugby league pre-season as the NRL machine continues to tick. How bloody good is God's game? Get up the Kiwis, and up the Kiwi Ferns, and up Mate Matonga. All Blacks, huge result for them, a famous victory, 24 points to 22 against the English in Twickenham. There's nothing better than beating those losers on their home soil. Atmosphere sounded electric. The crowd tried to drown out the haka with Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, and I see a lot of people getting up in arms about it. Personally, I don't mind what other teams do during the haka. I like how England came forward, accepted the challenge. Then you had the contrast of the All Blacks 15 against Munster where the crowd was dead silent. Doesn't worry me either way. Personally, I enjoy the dead silence because I think that's the ultimate respect. But at the same time, the crowd trying to drown it out, that's also a backhanded sign of respect too, because it shows that they believe it's a massive advantage for us and they want to bring that advantage to their team too. So that is what it is, and we can't control it, so I don't think it's worth kicking a massive fuss over. I thought the All Blacks played really well in this game for large patches too, and you could say potentially our best all-round 23 performance. There were still a few things that pissed me off a little. I thought again some aimless kicking from Bodie Barrett in particular throughout this game. That Cody Taylor injury had me worried early doors too, and I do think our line-out really struggled as a result. Asafo Amua around the park, great player, but you just can't replace Cody Taylor's accuracy at set-piece time. Overall, really entertaining game though, went right down to the wire, and I definitely thought George Ford was going to clutch it at the end there. You don't get much better of a kicker both off tee and his drop kicks. That's literally what he makes his money on. During the World Cup, he almost carried England through to the big dance. He was just banging over penalties and droppies left, right and centre. So for him to step up and hit the post on that penalty shot and then miss a drop goal, which credit to the All Blacks, they put a shit ton of pressure on him as he was taking that as well. I was incredibly surprised. At the same time, stoked for the boys, stoked for D-Mac, nailing that clutch conversion at the end there off the back of one of the great tries from Mark Talia. I thought the tries we scored overall were really good. That Bodie Barrett try just shows when he keeps ball in hand, we run at speed and we bring in change of angles. We can pick apart teams with mismatches with our speed around the ruck too. That cut for Will Jordan straight through, that was pure brilliance. And that second Mark Talia try, he had no right in scoring that one. A great run from Wallace. We shift it wide. He had multiple defenders on him, the balance, the finishing ability. It was so good to see Mark really stand up and stake his claim for that 14 jersey as well. I think it was on last week's pod where I said that position for me was the most up for grabs. I think Mark has well and truly grabbed it now. That was that 2023 Breakout Player of the Year form, which he appears to have found again, which is bloody positive for us moving forward. On your standouts, Wallace Atiti, again, man of the match for me. I'll just bring up his stats now, but every week he just goes from strength to strength. And for me, there's a genuine possibility that he could win Breakout Player of the Year and also World Player of the Year in the same season. The kid is elite, 142 carry meters off 15 carries, 9 tackles. He's just everywhere. His work rate is elite, and I just love watching him and Artie in tandem rip in. The fact the kid is still only, 22 years old in his first season of international and really Super Rugby as well. The sky's the limit for this bloke, and he seems so humble and grounded off field too. Actually follows his Surly page on Insta too, so hopefully can get him on for a pod in the future. I reckon he'd be a bloody good yarn, but I just love watching him play. Another massive challenge for him this weekend, but I reckon he's ready for it. Mark Talia had him dotted down too for reasons that I just explained. Damien McKenzie, thought he was great off the bench there in the final 20 minutes and played bloody well. They were the big three for me. No one really had a bad performance though. I just think this was an all-round solid shift from the ABs. This week we get to take on Ireland, and I can't wait for this one. 9:10 a.m. Saturday morning, not Sunday. It's a Friday night game over there, which has me bloody excited too. Again, Wednesday Arvo, still no team name, so that has me thinking they're going to do it overnight. By the time you listen to this pod, it'll probably be out, which is bloody annoying. Personally, I don't see any massive changes here. Of course, no Cody Taylor, no Bodie Barrett. That is two huge blows. So I think we get your usual. Asafa Moore starting at hooker, which means a massive day for him. The Irish, they're well and truly going to target us at line-out time as a result. I think we were 80% last week, which is still decent, but at world international level, you kind of want to be a little bit higher than that. It also does mean George Bell onto the bench in arguably the biggest game of his career. Not even arguably. That'll be the biggest game of his young career for sure. So expect them to apply some pressure there. Then in the 10 jersey, I think we will see straight sub D-Mac in. Then, for me, it's interesting to see who's on the bench to replace D-Mac coming into the starting side. Whether they go with Stephen Perofeta, which I think they will, or whether they go with Harry Plummer, who they've called in from the All Blacks 15. For me, I think it's Perofeta because he can play 10 and 15 as well if needed. But do they just go for a specialist out-and-out 10 in Harry Plummer? Other than that, I think the only other change will be Ethan de Groot to come straight back in from his 1 week stand down for disciplinary reasons. Broke team protocol, not too sure what it was. Maybe a cheeky little midweek booze up, but again, don't want to assume. I think he'll come back in. Mighty Williams onto the bench. Ufatonga Fussy, old Stole my car seat to miss out on the Remu. This is going to be some game though. Ireland still ranked number 1 in the world. South Africa 2, us 3. So it's a battle of the big dogs. They're coming in off the back of that July series with South Africa where they managed to draw it over on South African soil. So they've got that up over us this year. They managed to do what we couldn't and knock off South Africa on their home turf. Then you add to that, you got this whole Sexton Rico Ioane drama. There'll still be bad blood from that World Cup quarterfinal. 28-24, we broke Irish hearts. They were heavy favourites there to win the thing. They came in as the best team in the world. And again, we cut down their campaign at the quarterfinals, so they will be out for revenge on that one. The Dublin crowd will be into it. The Guinnesses will be flowing in a major way. I can't wait for this, and what a time slot for us to watch as well. Think I'll head along to full time. They're running back that same deal as last week. $25, you get brekkie, coffee, and you get to watch the game. Not sure if they serve tins, but I could be up for a cheeky little cold one while I sink the teeth into the action as well. This, for me, this is the biggest game of this tour, and hopefully the lads can get it done. Again, touch on it in the punting segment, but we're $2.60 underdogs too, which if Bodie and Cody Taylor were in the team, I would well and truly be jumping on and saying that the odds probably wouldn't be as big either, but I do think momentum is a great thing. Ireland, their first hit out since that July series. Could we catch them with a bit of rust? Man, this will be a massive scalp for Razor to claim in his first year. You almost forget about those losses if we can go over, knock England off at Twickenham, knock Ireland off at Ireland, and then knock the French off next weekend. That would be the dream result. So can't wait to watch that one. Then also, Monday morning, All Blacks 15 up against Georgia. Interesting for me, this game being held in France, Montpellier, which of course it's a Georgia home game too. So I just assumed the two countries were close. Looked it up. It's a 13-hour flight from Georgia to Montpellier, including a stopover. This is a real stitch-up for the Georgian team. It's great for our lads, though. I certainly know where I'd rather be. Montpellier, a beautiful place. Then you could do a cheeky little trip to Paris off the back of it. Maybe even fly across to Ibiza. Really get your off-season humming. Beautiful part of the world over there in Europe, but excited for that game as well. Ruben Love, Harry Plummer, all called into that All Blacks squad, so they won't be playing, I believe. Again, no teams named. Just another chance, though, to watch your Duplessis Karifis, your Sean Stevensons, Kini Naholo, who I thought was outstanding last week, Fabian Holland, probably the best player in that All Blacks 15 Munster game as well, which really has me excited for his big future in the black jersey. He will well and truly be an All Black in the years to come. Plus, we get dished up another shit ton of international rugby alongside that as well. This weekend, it is well and truly all go. We've got Canada versus Chile, Spain versus Uruguay. Hardly blockbusters there. You sprinkle in some Romania versus Tonga and Portugal versus UNA, and that hardly gets lead in pencil. But there are some blockbusters sprinkled in too. You got England up against Aussie, Italy up against Argentina, France against Japan, Wales against Fiji, don't write off the Fijians, and then Scotland versus South Africa too. Some bloody good games this weekend. Really keen to see how they all play out. Does Joseph Suaalii get a run for the Wallabies? For me, that would be pretty drastic, but watch that space too. A huge weekend of international code. Can't wait to sink the teeth into it. Get up the All Blacks. Get up the All Blacks 15. Would love to see us beat Ireland, though. We can play zombie and just give them banter off the back of it. Sexton and Rieko Ioane to have a punch-up as they shake hands, too, because I think Sexton's now involved in the coaching staff. That would be elite stuff. Weekly wrap time now. We'll punch these out. Shout out to Auckland FC. Went down to Wellington and turned it into Ellington. Handed them the L 2-0. Massive scenes. New Zealand is now blue and black. You gotta love that. Huge result for the Port too. Good to see so many fans travelling down. They were running amok before the game, chanting, running amok during it and post as well. Quickly becoming one of my favourite fan bases in New Zealand sport. But good to see the FC go on the lift. Undefeated, top of the table. How bloody good is that? And that welcome to Ellington billboard they put up in Wellington as well. That was elite stuff. A real clap back from the Phoenix's display, flying that plane over Mount Smart the week before. Auckland FC got the last laugh, but they've won the battle. They haven't won the war just yet. December 7th, a rematch there at Mount Smart. Got my tickets the other day. Unfortunately, the Port was sold out, but I'll be looking to weasel my way in there. And you best believe I'll be pre-drinking at Lily World with the crew 100%, but really enjoyed that game. The New Zealand derby lived up to all the hype, and I reckon this rivalry is going to be elite for so bloody long. Black Caps, well done to them. Good to see the Herald stole my get that India joke as well. The clean sweep, the first time India have ever lost 3-0 on home soil. I think they'd lost the Test Series 2-0 before, but never 3-0. So to have that happen at the hands of the Black Caps, that's got to be one of our most historic wins in New Zealand sport ever when you think about it. That is crazy scenes. The last hour of that Test match, when people say Test cricket is boring, you refer them to that. That was bums on the edges seats. It was drama galore, and to see us pull off that victory was massive. Well done to the Caps, and to think they got the last two Test dubs without Captain Kane, or previous Captain Kane, arguably our best player as well. That just pushes it up and makes it even more crazy. Unreal scenes. The Breakers, we're rolling, pumped the 36ers, which was crazy shit. Did that at home, and then backed that up with a massive win against Melbourne United, put 40-odd on them off the back of huge performances from Sam Meninga, Parker Jackson Cartwright and Lopez. That Lopez kid, I can see why he's been touted as an early first-round draft pick. 17 years old. I think he had 16 or 17 points, 10 boards, 4 blocks. To do that while you still should be at high school is crazy against one of the best teams in the competition as well. Shout out to the Break Show. 8 games deep, 6 wins, only 2 losses. Next game Saturday night up against the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers, one of the great names in the competition. I'm just loving what they're dishing up this year off the back of such a shit preseason. Almost gave them no hope, but the lads are well and truly delivering, and we look every bit a title contender so far this year. NBA, sticking to basketball. Speaking of title contenders, Cavs and OKC, the only 2 undefeated teams remaining in the NBA, both of them on a roll. Then you got the Warriors, Celtics and Suns, all with just 1 loss. I'm a little shocked at the Warriors, to be fair. I didn't expect them to get off to this strong of a start and be this good. At the same time, they've had a really easy schedule to kick things off, so it'll be interesting to see if they can maintain that as they take on some good teams. They're playing the Celtics today, so that's their first real test. Buddy Hield, though, he's been unreal. I did see his real name is Shavano, so I'm not sure where he gets Buddy from. Shavano Hield. He's been shooting the lights out. He's been a great replacement for Klay Thompson, it seems. So he's found his perfect fit. And the Warriors just punching well above their weight. For me, the Celtics and the Thunder, still my favourites to take out the title and meet each other in the finals. On the other end of the scale, the Bucks, they well and truly suck. And I do genuinely think there's a chance that if this keeps up, Giannis could find himself requesting a trade and moving during this season, and the thought of him potentially going to a team like OKC, imagine that. And I know a lot of people will roll their eyes and say, Surly, surely not. OKC, they don't need him, which is true. They're doing bloody well without him. But You're telling me if you give them an opportunity to add a player like Giannis and they're not interested, I'd be incredibly surprised. They've got so many picks that they could easily make this happen. They could literally offer them 10 first-round picks for Giannis. And I think the Bucks would almost have to take that. Chuck in a couple young players too. Imagine that current roster with the Greek Freak in the mixer. That would push them up even higher. So that Giannis chat makes things incredibly interesting. And I think that could end up being one of the biggest storylines this year. I think it's a genuine possibility it could happen as well. So watch this space. And shout out to Greg Popovich as well, Spurs coach, unfortunately battling with a few health issues, so hopefully he can get himself back out there and do what he does best. NFL to finish up, KC still undefeated, the only undefeated team remaining in the comp. An OT win for them against Tampa. I cracked up at that clip if you haven't seen it. Basically OT, coin toss, KC win, and it's just Baker Mayfield rolling his eyes. He literally knew that they were cooked from them. KC just go down opening drive and score a touchdown, and that was all she wrote. Patty Mahomes, he just lives for moments like that. For me, it's KC, Detroit, Ravens, Buffalo, and then probably the Niners with Christian McCaffrey hopefully back this week. Those are your title contenders. I think everyone else looking decent. There's a few other decent teams in the mix, but I think those are the big five for me. The highlight play of the week, though, has to be Saquon Barkley and his spin move into a backwards hurdle. That was just a freakish display of athleticism and probably one of the best individual athletic plays that I've seen. To be facing backwards and still hurdle over a defender, that's almost fucking impossible, and it's so sick now. The NFL, they're so all over their content. They just slowed it down. They had it captured from multiple angles. That bloke's a freak. He's enjoying his time at Philly, and him and Derrick Henry at the Ravens, they have to be two of the biggest offseason moves, and man, are they having massive impacts on both of those teams. So plenty of sport still this week to tuck the teeth into as well. AFC, they get the break this week, unfortunately. The Breakers, like I said, they're playing on Saturday up against the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. The NFL, there's some good matchups this weekend that tick some boxes. Your Friday game, Ravens versus Bengals, should be an exciting watch. Niners versus Bucks on Monday morning, that'll be good. Broncos versus Chiefs as well. Bills versus Colts, Steelers versus Commanders. Who would have thought early in the season that that would be must-watch stuff, but the Manders going insane. Eagles versus Cowboys, no Dak Prescott, Cowboys shitting the bed, so surely Philly get up there. Lions versus Texans, that'll be bums on seats too. And then your Tuesday game, Dolphins versus Rams, that'll be an all-good watch as well. The march to the Super Bowl continues, and it's cool to see as well. Trade window open, teams making some plays. The good teams looking to stack some chips and make a real push to try and make the Super Bowl. The bad teams just moving off players now, handy assets too, in exchange for draft picks, which should make things interesting in the run home as well. And hopefully Christian McCaffrey is back, because I took him number one in my fantasy draft. I'm still in playoff contention, and I think that could be the bloke that leads me to the promised land. So get back out there, horse, strap her up, and bring me in some lucrative fantasy points so I can go all the way. Purely selfish, but you gotta love it. Punting chat time now, and if you're like me, did your ass on the Melbourne Cup, then hopefully this week we can win some of that money back responsibly. And of course, remember, as well as I mentioned in the intro, we've got that first try scorer bonus back promo exclusive to STS listeners running this week. It is on the Kiwis versus the PNG game, so enter the code trytime in your TAB app or on the website, then place a first try scorer bet on that game, and if your player doesn't score, you'll get up to $20 back as bonus cash. So say, for example, you chuck it on Keanu Keeney, first try scorer. He doesn't score, you'll get your money back as bonus cash. She's literally a free swing. Remember, capped at the first 200 people to claim the code, so get in there quick, smart. Mentioned before, Melbourne Cup, no luck there. Possibly had the most unluckiest multi-loss last week as well. Let me run you through this one quickly. Of course, chucked it on my Instagram story, but I know a few of you, listen here, you're not big big on the gram. So first leg, India to beat the Black Caps. Massive tick there, paying $3.90. Then I had Auckland FC win or draw up against the Phoenix, paying $1.53, another tick. Then I went the Breakers. They were underdogs against the 36ers. Back the boys in, and they got the chocolates at $2.25. Then I had the All Blacks to beat England, just head-to-head on the nose at $1.50. Liam Lawson to get the points in his last F1 race, paying $2.10. So straight away, that is 5 green ticks on bet slips. One leg left. Thought it was going to be on for all money. The one that fucks me though, New Zealand versus Tonga, $1.48 favourites, the shortest of all the odds on the multi. It goes down by a point, an absolute bee's dick. That is a real shame. But hey, that's the joy of punting. Best thing about it too, we get another roll at the dice this weekend. Shout out to AJ Brimson as well. Shit, has he got himself in some curry. Actually forgot this one from your NRL news, but if you haven't seen it yet, basically chucked $100 on that pony to win the Melbourne Cup. She certainly did. Saluted for him. Ended up winning 10k. Chucked it up on his story saying, "See you at the Pav. Bears are on me." Poor bloke, obviously not good at cropping. It's all quite new to him. Forgot to crop out his 2 bets underneath that, which happened to be what looked like first try scorer bets on some rugby league. Instead, he's just tried to colour them in. Left off edges of the writing as well as the rugby ball logo, so straight away it was a dead set giveaway. He quickly deleted it after about half an hour, but the damage had been done. People had been screenshotting it and were sending it all around. Now he's up in front of the NRL integrity unit, and I see his excuse was that it was his mum's account, not his. Which, fuck me, I think we've all tried to use that one to the missus or our significant others in the past. That doesn't fly, so I'll be interested to see how things wash up there for Brimo. But anyway, on to this week's action. NRL, like I touched on before, Pacific Championship, and it's the last week. Rugby League will be on our TV screens before we get dished up Warriors in Vegas, so it's bittersweet. We get that excitement as well. At the same time, it's sad to see league over, but shit to these players deserve the break. We'll touch on Aussie versus Tonga first. Why not? It is the final, but it is the entree to the big clash, the old promotion relegation. Aussie coming clear favourites, $1.12. Tonga, $6.50. Shit, that is disrespectful. Maybe the bookies weren't watching that game last week, or maybe they just thought that was a one-off from Tonga and they can't repeat it. I'm not so certain. The line, speaking of disrespectful, 18.5 rugby league points, so just outside that 3 converted tries. I reckon I'm jumping on Tonga there on plus 18.5. Your best back winning team in margin, no surprises. Aussie 13 plus at $1.48. Tonga 1-12 at $7.50. Unfortunately, try-scorer market's not up at time of recording. TAB have said they'll be up 4 p.m. today though, so by the time you're listening to this, they will be live. For your try-scorers that I like Hammer, first, second, or third. I like Turbo anytime as well. No Cam Murray, so maybe a Hudson Young as a second rower option, and I'll always have a cheeky little sniff on Harry Grant, but my best 2, Tommy Turbo and the Hammer, and I'll be going on the Hammer first, second, or third, that's for sure. I like Tonga plus 18.5. I'm going to have a look on that line for sure. I reckon they're too good to cover that. And for your Tongan try scorers, don't mind me an AFB. I would say he'll be paying lucrative money 100%. Also, don't mind me a Soni Katoa. And I think it's due. Homoli Olakauatu. Surely he's got a dot. So those are my best 3 selections from Tonga. But my best bets overall for this, I'll be going that plus 18.5 line in favour of Tonga. And then the Hammer to dot down for a meaty. Chuck and Turbo as well to make that same game multi. Miss by 1 leg and you'll get your money back in bonus cash up to $50. New Zealand versus PNG. This is the game where your first try scorer bets well and truly apply, and you best believe I'll be going in on Insane in the Jermaine Isaac-Or, 100%. Scored first in that game down in Christchurch. I reckon he can do it yet again. Surely there's meat pies galore for our wicked wingers in this one. You'd have to think the rugby league equivalent of the Bermuda Triangle. Him, Warbrick, Keanu Keeney, those are your 3 best shouts for your first try scorers. If they don't score first, you'll get your money back as well in bonus cash. So it's literally a free go at something quite lucrative. So I'll be jumping on them for my first try scorer options. I like New Zealand to cover the line of 19.5 at $1.90 as well. So I'll be jumping on that. Unfortunately, again, at time of recording, no try scorer, no first try scorer odds up. But get on your wingers. Get on Keanu Keeney. Wouldn't mind seeing an SJ Fairy Tale. Not sure if I'm sold on it. I do think IPAP, Isaiah Papali'i, is a great bet there as well. So Kiwis minus 19.5. Get on the line. I'm going to go on Jermaine Isako as my first try scorer. And then for your try scorer options, the Brick, Jermaine, Keanu Keeney, even chuck one of those three in for two or more, if not all three of them, to get a little bit leery. And then IPAP, second rower special. Book that bad boy in. And then Jillaroos up against the Kiwi Ferns. Unfortunately, Jillaroos, $1.18 favourites. Kiwis paying $5. Line is 10.5. I reckon we're a sniff at punching that line too. So Kiwis plus 10.5 at $1.90. I'll be jumping on board there. More as a Patriot bet, but I am hopeful that the ladies can get the job done. Fuck, would that be a famous win. Jumping across to your rugby union, Ireland taking on the All Blacks. Of course, Saturday morning, 9:10 a.m. kickoff. Ireland at home in Dublin, $1.47 favourites. They are the number one ranked team in world rugby, so you can understand that. The All Blacks paying $2.60. The line is 5.5, and the total points is 48.5. Your best back winning margins, Ireland 1-12 comes in there at $2.60. New Zealand 1-12 at $3.60. Straight away, the Patriot in me says jump on board that. All Blacks by a bee's dick, 1-12, yes please. I love us at 260 as well, although without having Cody Taylor and Bowden Barrett, that does make me nervous. So the insurance of that 5.5 line at $1.87 is appealing. And I think my best bet for this one is to take us on the plus 7.5 line, just to get us a little bit more insurance, that old alternative line, and see how we go from there. That's paying $1.67. Hopefully that's a nice little leg on our multis. Of course, teams not named at time of recording. Sound like a fucking broken record there. What is up with sport? But I'm going to jump on Caleb Clark, Will the Thrill, Mark Talia. Again, all your wingers. Rinse and repeat, nothing exciting there. They're hardly groundbreaking tips, but I think those are your three best chances, that's for sure. Will the Thrill just scores tries for fun, so get on board with him and get up the mighty ABs. All Blacks 15, no markets up for them yet. I think that game against Georgia is going to be incredibly tight though, so take the All Blacks 15, 1-12. Shooter, Noholo, those are my best bets to jump on right there. Your other international games, I like England to beat Australia. They're only paying $1.18 on the nose. 1-12 paying $2.70. 13 plus best back there for England. I do expect Aussie to put up a decent fight though. I like Argentina to beat Italy. France, they're going to pump Japan. Wales, Fiji. Fuck, that could be closer than a lot of people think. Of course, Fiji knocked them over last time they played in the World Cup too. $2.60 underdogs for Fiji. A line of 5.5. I reckon you jump on that Fiji plus 5.5 and just hope that they can go back-to-back big lifts. And then South Africa, $1.25 favourites up against Scotland. That is going to be a humdinger. Scotland, a bloody good team at home too, paying $3.70. Shit, that is disrespectful. I do think South Africa will win, but that's crazy odds. And Scotland plus 10.5 on the line. I'm probably going to take that too. So there you go. There's your odds for your international rugby. Unfortunately, couldn't help you out with some try scorers, some juicy options there. In terms of your NBA action for today's games, she's a stacked slate. Of course, yesterday, US election, so there was no basketball. How crazy is that? Pacers taking on the Magic at home. Magic without Parlour, so jump on the Pacers there. $1.35. I like the Hornets to beat the Pistons. $1.82 favourites there. I like the Celtics to beat Golden State, but shit, that's a good clash, and Golden State paying $3.30. Fuck, they've only lost one game, same as the Celtics too. So it'll be a great test there to see if the Warriors are the real deal after a pretty soft start. I like the Rockets to beat the Spurs, $1.38 there. Shout out to Greg Popovich. Hopefully he's doing okay. The Mavericks should beat the Bulls for sure. OKC will beat the Nuggets, I reckon. Suns should beat Miami, and the Kings will beat the Raptors. So plenty of options there. And then jumping across to the NFL for this weekend, she's another full slate. That competition just keeps on rolling as we inch closer to the Super Bowl in February. I like the Ravens to beat the Bengals at $1.38. If you want a same-game multi there, chuck in Lamar Jackson and Flowers for your try scorers as well. I like the Bears to beat the Patriots. KC should prove too strong for Denver. I like the Vikings to beat the Jags. Commanders, Steelers, that's probably a zag game for me. Avoid that one, although I hope the Commanders win there. I like the Eagles to beat the Cowboys. No Dak Prescott, so I reckon they get that done fairly easily. I like Detroit to beat the Texans in what should be a good game as well. And then on your Tuesday, I like the Rams to beat the Dolphins, paying decent odds. The biggest watch for me this weekend has to be that Tampa Bay Buccaneers-Niners game too. Christian McCaffrey, is he back? Buccaneers coming in off a depressing little loss there in OT to the Chiefs, and they're no joke, paying good money at home. Certainly a game to watch right there. For your bet of the week this week, one last week with P&G minus 18.5 at $1.90. I'm now 23 from 31 on these. This week, I'm going to go Tonga plus 18.5 at $1.90. Get up, MMT, T-Gang, all day this weekend. Q&A time, 3 weeks on the trot, story up. So you've fired through your questions. You guys know the drill. Let's tuck into these. First one from Taylor says, is PJC winning MVP? PJC, of course, Parker Jackson Cartwright, Breakers star, and I absolutely think he could win MVP. He's currently well and truly entrenched in your top 3 candidates, and if the Breakers can keep this up and finish the regular season either top or in the top 4, then I 100% think he is in the mix. I think Big Montrez will be in the mixer as well, so it's really a battle between those two for me, but I'd love to see him win it. Love watching him play too. So small, but his skill set, he's a fucking entertaining watch. Get up the break show, and hopefully PJC can win MVP. It rhymes too, PJC MVP. So that's just a match made in heaven. Riley Hamilton wins your next Dolan shift, 7th of December, AFC, better than Knicks, and then on we go. Yeah, look, that's a great call. I reckon that's absolutely when I'll be in there next as well. Can't wait to be in the mixer, getting around the port. Hopefully AFC, big famous dub, and we start the march to Danny Doolan's. We could almost walk from Mount Smart. Would take a while, but fizz levels would still be high. It's been a couple of weeks or even months since I've been in the mixer at Doolan's. It's more a rugby season thing for me. But shit, why not? First Auckland FC game, that's well and truly something to celebrate. It's around Christmas, festive season, feed up, the time to tuck into a few Waitakere daiquiris too. So let's lock that in, 7th of December, post an AFC win. Off we go to Doolan's. That'll be bloody good stuff. Nick Nath says AFC and the Port review of the season so far. Look, I think it's been phenomenal. Just how well they've gone both on and off the field. They're a good side on paper, so it's cool to see the success translate onto the paddock, to be undefeated after their first 3 games and to have generated so much momentum amongst the public as well. I was all for this team coming into the competition, and I said I was going to jump on them, get off the Phoenix and get around them, but I never really saw myself getting this swept up in it. I didn't think I'd be heading along to games and things like that or wanting to get myself in the Port as much as I do right now. So that right there is a testament to their success and just how much hype and excitement they're creating in the New Zealand sporting landscape. You may recall I chucked up a story on Saturday or Sunday, I think it was, asking people what sporting event last weekend they were most excited to watch, and there was Black Caps, there was All Blacks, there was the Kiwis versus Tonga, Liam Lawson. There was so much sport on last week, top shelf stuff too, and the biggest response was the AFC versus Phoenix game. So I think that right there says enough, and hopefully, Nick, you'll make the trip up from Christchurch and we can see you in the mixer at Mount Smart for a game as well. Next question, Travis Scott. Shit, I hope that's the rapper. Bloody good concert last week as well, thoroughly enjoyed that. Played Fiend about 6 times, but it's a good tracker. Sicko Mode, the real highlight for me. But he says 2015 All Blacks versus 2023 Springboks. How much do the All Blacks win by? Yeah, look, I do think we win, and we win reasonably comfortably around that 10-point mark. I did say the other week too, 2023 Springboks, that is literally Well, the modern day equivalent of the 2015 All Blacks, the Boxer in that rich vein of form that we were in, that era that we were in back then. I do think, though, that 2015 All Blacks team has to be, in my opinion, the best team that we have ever seen in World Rugby, and I reckon they get the chocolates by about the 10-point margin. Call me biased, absolutely, but I reckon around 25 points to 15, somewhere in that region. DC, Richie McCaw and the boys come away with the dub. Henry Lee says, who has the best atmosphere in Auckland, Breakers, Wars, or Auckland FC? Shit, personally, I'd still say the Wars, purely because I love the Breakers. Atmosphere there is elite. Indoor venue, though, so easier to make noise and things like that. It's easier to just create an atmosphere in general. Smaller crowd, too. And if you're going to a Breakers game, you're a genuine frother, and you know you're going there to chant defense, to get behind Simon as he bangs out Gangnam Style, which adds even more fizz to the occasion, too. But I do love the Breakers atmosphere. I'd probably put that in third for me at the moment. In second, I would go with AFC, and that's off the back of not having been to a game yet, so perhaps it's unfair of me to say, but the feedback I've heard is that the port goes off, the rest of the crowd kind of just sits there and watches, your standard football crowd, and there is moments where it's pretty quiet. So on that reason alone, I'll chuck them second, and then at one, I'll go the Warriors, just because the whole crowd, it was sold out all year, 25,000, and everyone's just on a knife edge, riding the momentum, going at the referees when they make bad calls. So for me, in terms of general all-round fizz, Wars at one, and I still think our fans are undefeated. Then I would go at two, Auckland FC, with the Port potentially being the best fan base, but the rest of the crowd perhaps letting them down again without having been to a game, so don't shoot me. And then in third, Breakers, indoor, smaller crowd, still a sick atmosphere. All three are fucking good, but that's just my order personally. So really appreciate your questions there, everyone. There was another one here from Samuel Harris saying, bring back the TAB codes for the boys. I've done that for you, so hopefully you're all happy with that. And we'll roll the dice, run the Q&A again next week. How bloody good. Right, that's us for another episode of STS. As always, cheers for your ears. Hope you enjoyed mid-November, but still so much sporting action to tuck the teeth into. Probably got about another month of pods before we wrap her up for the year too. So on the home straight, big things planned for 2025 though, actually huge things. So incredibly excited for that already. As always, enjoy your sporting action this weekend. If you're having a flutter, do it at the TAB. If you're having some beers, some Darren Frothiers, Scooey Moi Mois, Tins and Brooks, then make them some better beers. Hope your team wins, hope the All Blacks win, hope the Kiwis win, hope Tonga wins, hope the Kiwi Ferns win, and I'll catch you back here, same time, same place, next week to reminisce. Hopefully green ticks on bet slips, the TAB account has bounced back from a disappointing Melbourne Cup, and we can reload and go again. Big fizz.